2020. These Glamrock animatronics are from the FNAF 2020 series of drawings from DeviantArt user Senior Artsy, who I believe we've seen on this channel before in some other fan versions videos. However, I don't want to call out one animatronic specifically, but rather the whole collection of Glamrock versions from this 2020 set, because while yes, these animatronics will mostly be in the game, with the exception of some like Bonnie, these color palettes and designs are much more sinister than their previous versions, especially Vanny and Freddy, since giving Freddy a panda face, I don't know why, but just for some reason makes me kinda scared of him, and I think it's because the rest of his body isn't a panda, and it's just his face, so it's like he's wearing a mask and gonna rob you or something. I don't know the psychology behind it, but I think we can all agree, especially that Vanny looks like she should not be playing in a kid's game. And at 9, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is just the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So far as I know at least, the only mention of Bonnie will be a bowling alley that we probably aren't gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of these animatronics, the designs aren't scary. Well, aside from the Minecraft model. Like, what's with people and making Minecraft animations for FNAF characters? And like FNAF, I don't understand it. I'd also like it to be noted that instead of animations, I spelt animatronics when I was writing that list initially, and I also did it again while writing this line. That's how much FNAF has taken over my life. I can't write animation anymore. So I hope you people are f***ing happy. But either way, these versions, aside from one version from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing. But the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough for me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that, okay? And at 8, Glamrock Foxy. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, Glamrock Foxy would also add a lot of unnecessary amount of annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and even has a name that kind of reflects on the whole like meant to be Foxy thing, since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. Like, it's also an actual name, but I figured I'd mention that it's basically a combination of the two words, and she plays guitar, and so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this comes from the fact that Foxy is just, it's scarier than Bonnie. I know all you die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for me, and I get that Scott had nightmares about him, but honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Foxy is scarier than Bonnie, and that means that his Glamrock would end up being scarier as well, especially if you take the toy animatronics as an example. The Glamrocks are very close design-wise to the toys, so keeping that in mind, the toy variant of Foxy is still scarier than Bonnie's. Case closed. And at 7, Roblox. I looked up Glamrock versions of characters, and somehow I kept getting loads of different Roblox versions of the FNAF animatronics. And this is goddamn terrifying for me. Why do you ask? Well, because it's Roblox. I don't like Roblox. The only good Roblox game is paintball, and that's it, okay? Anytime we talk about Roblox, I feel an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me, because ever since that list about like the worst things that people did on Roblox or something along those lines, I've seen the Roblox community as horrifically toxic and just something I can't really stand. Especially with the comments on like that one time I played Roblox on the channel and everyone got mad at me for just playing paintball, but like that environment combined with FNAF, which is already the bane of my existence at this point, and you get some pretty horrifying experiences that I don't want to deal with. And at 6, Withered Glamrock Freddy. I've said it before, Withered animatronics are probably some of the weirdest and creepiest animatronics there are. I personally find Withered Bonnie way creepier than Nightmare Bonnie, probably because of the whole lack of a face thing. But with the new Glamrock animatronics on their way in a month, it was only a matter of time before someone withered them. Searching Withered Chica only really gets you pictures of like Chica from the Broken teasers and the trailer, so instead I'm going with Withered Glamrock Freddy because these are creepy as hell. Every version of Withered Glamrock Freddy makes me concerned that we're climbing into his belly to pilot him like some really energy inefficient mech suit. Like, thinking about it, that's a really bad idea. This guy not only looks scary, but also made me realize the error of Gregory's ways, which makes him even worse. When we ultimately do get crushed at the end of this game, I'm calling it now so that when it does happen I can say I called it. This is how I imagine Glamrock Freddy looking. Or if this is post FNAF 3 and the company has been ruined, maybe this is what the animatronics look like, except they're using those sound illusion discs to make us think otherwise. Halfway through, in at number 5, Ignited Bonnie. Remember when I said it would get even more meta? Well, here we are, with the meta levels rising above even Central City. Because Ignited Bonnie comes from the joy of creation, a FNAF fan game where you play as Scott Cawthon in the real world. Yes, in this game, you play as the creator of FNAF himself, after he retires the series, 2 years after the release of the first game. So at least it's not real life. The animatronics don't like that though, and somehow break out of the game to attack Scott, his family, and Michael Afton, who also escaped. This game is also getting a new version as a part of the FazBear Fanverse initiative, and honestly I'm excited to see what's coming. I mean, I'm probably not going to play it, but I'm excited to see it. The Joy of Creation is seen as one of the scariest FNAF fan games, so it's obvious why it would get a new funded version. I feel like Scott also liked the idea of being a playable character, because I know I sure as hell would. Like, it would give me a much needed ego boost. Actually, at this point, it's not really needed. I'm feeling damn good. It would be fun though. I want to play as myself, so that for once, I'm the one playing me, instead of being played by others. Maybe I'm not okay. In it for Nightmare Toy Bonnie. I thought that the Nightmare versions couldn't get any worse, yet here we are. I remember someone commenting on an alternate fan versions of Chica list a long time ago, saying that it was more like a fan versions of Toy Chica list. But the toy animatronics are just other versions of the originals, okay? So it wasn't a different list, it's the same thing. So don't pester me about it this time around, goddammit. Nightmare Toy Bonnie is a monstrosity that just needs to be banished to the depths of hell from which it came, and then sent by Satan from hell to like the empty or something, because he just doesn't want to deal with it. And I would understand why. Looking this up, I didn't think I'd be as frightened as I was, but holy ever loving living crap. This actually kinda shocked me how terrifying it was. The toy aesthetic just seems to make these versions worse. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just the toy animatronics as nightmares just make the absolute scariest versions. I swear, I don't know what it is. It works so well together. If you have any theories as to why this is a thing, let me know in the comments, because, like, Jesus. And also, yes, I have a band-aid on my thumb, okay? I was removing supports off 3D print and I was being stupid about it, so I gashed my thumb. And when I say it's deep. Getting close to the end in number 3, Sinister Bonnie. You know how earlier I said that if you want something to be scary, you just add nightmare in front of it? Well, there's about 10 different words that you can use over and over again, and then you'll get the same thing, okay? Because if you know these lists, you knew that Sinister Bonnie was bound to make an appearance, because Sinister is just one of those words. From the unfinished, unreleased, and cancelled fan game Sinister Turmoil, we have Sinister Bonnie, an animatronic best described as a repaired nightmare version. With teeth sharper than Eminem's lyrics and an overall demeanor more intimidating than Will Smith at the Oscars, this animatronic is some pure nightmare fuel, and it's clear to see why. Every time I see one of these Sinister animatronics, I'm glad that the game didn't release. Like, not because it wouldn't have been good. I'm sure the game would have been amazing, but because I don't have to interact with these animatronics anywhere. Like, other than images, okay? But they can't hurt me through images. And that's what really matters to me in the long run. Avoiding being scared at all costs. I still don't get why people like being scared, okay? Maybe it's like a kink thing, if you ask me. I feel like it probably is. Fear evolved to protect us, okay? Being scared is a bad thing. Nevertheless, these things are just so wrong, but so right. At least, so right in the scare department, and wrong for my pants, because at this point, these pants are brown, and the laundry room also smells atrocious. And ultimately, in at number 2, Drakill Bonnie. Drakill Bonnie was actually a version I was recommended on previous videos. Multiple comments suggested that I look up the Drakill animatronics, and honestly, I'm glad you told me, because goddamn, this thing is menacing. Called Bonnie Bot by Drakill on DeviantArt, it's a disproportionate Bonnie robot that is made to look like metal. Like, we all know how I feel about disproportionate things as well, aside from Funko Pops, because those are blessed. They always end up being more off-putting than normal, okay? And the hands on this thing are gigantic, which just makes me think that it's going to crush me and then like use its arm like a hammer, like one of the infected from Back for Blood. You know that one? The one with the tower arm? Yeah, that thing. Or it's just gonna keep wailing on me until I'm either pulverized or 6 feet under. Literally 6 feet under. It will punch me into the earth. These Drakill animatronics are damn terrifying, and I'm really thankful for your recommendations. So if you have any other animatronics that you want me to check out for characters that maybe I haven't covered yet, or if you have any characters that you want to see alternate fan versions of, let me know in the comments, because that's really helpful. My brain is kind of like packed at capacity, and again, I use like the same 10 keywords over and over looking for these. I always type in nightmare and nightmare toy and, you know, those kinds of things. So yeah, Drakill is definitely in the reservoir, so it's like 11 words, but please. And finally, and at number 1, Slasher Bonnie. Yet another recommendation from the comments, Slasher Bonnie will haunt my nightmares for years. As if I wasn't scared enough about playing the guitar, Slasher Bonnie turns that into an actual fear by making the guitar a giant axe. So, thanks PlayStation Jedi on DeviantArt. Thanks for causing more restless nights than my ex. This damn guitar axe thing is so goddamn creepy, especially because there is literally blood dripping off of it. I don't know what else to say. I feel like the picture says it all. If a picture says 1,000 words, I would need like 2 pictures in my script, and then that would be the video, okay? Because my scripts are usually around 2,000 words long, which is significantly more than most people, okay? I talk fast. But also, it's why I don't have time for comments. Because I take too long to film a video anyway, okay? Just as long as you keep Slasher Bonnie away from me, I think I'll be okay though. Although the Slasher animatronics will be making more appearances if I do talk about these more. Because god damn it, have you seen like the Chica version? It has a bib that says let's kill instead of let's eat. And like, I love Chica, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that might be a little much. And it's at Garvey, a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer. He stopped being human long ago. That's how Garvey is described in the extras of Dormitabis, the game from which he hails. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist to Dormitabis, and as a human, he was a man who murdered the missing children, and later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and was burnt to a permanent death in the Fazbear Fright's fire. If only the real Afton could have taken that same route. Garvey is a more gory version of Springtrap from FNAF 3. However, it is not William Afton, as this game was released before that name reveal, even before FNAF 4. Springtrap, but with hardly any exosuit or animatronic casing, whatever you want to call it. Garvey crawls on all fours and uses his left hand as a foot and his left foot as a hand, like some form of demon monkey from hell that Satan didn't sanction the creation of. Just look at this thing and tell me that it shouldn't be on this list, okay? If you do, you'll actually be lying, and that will make Garvey just want you more. That's a face that not even furries could simp for. Come on. And at 9, Shadow Spring Bonnie. Shadow Spring Bonnie is one of the 2 primary antagonists of Final Nights 2. He's also one of the final animatronics in the game. Shadow Spring Bonnie resembles Springtrap, as to be expected when mentioning spring-locked suits. Similar to Springtrap, he lacks the suit on his right feet and has the majority of his right ear missing. Overall, he has rips, but he's not really missing any limbs or parts overall, which is a stark contrast to the burnt animatronics from the first 4 nights of the game. His face glows white, which is noticeable when he is in the hallway, but it also gives him a more sinister appearance, and pushes the something supernatural idea that most Shadow animatronics have, like Shadow Bonnie from FNAF AR. Shadow Spring Bonnie takes the role of Burnt Freddy and Burnt Foxy on night 5, and is very fast, so the player must seal the vent quickly, or else they'll get jump scared. He may also appear in the hallway, but if he does, never use your flashlight or you will get insta-killed, and you should inspect his face when he appears there. If he's twitching, close the door. A rattling sound will let you know when he's left. The fact that you actually need to look at his face to see if you're in danger is horrifying, especially when most of what you need to do in this game relies on fast reflexes, you having to sit there and process something, especially for me, who processes something at the speed of a snail. That's gonna be rough. And at 8, Scrap Nightmare Bonnie. What's that? 2 Bonnie animatronics in a row on a list that's not about Bonnie? Yes, you heard it, but mostly because I was scrolling through Google and these are the 2 that caught my eye first. Bonnie, the scariest animatronic to some, even Scott Cawthon, who would have nightmares about him. This is probably why you didn't end up getting a Scrap animatronic. Yet here we are with the fan base once again showcasing that their only desire is to watch the world burn and laugh while we all go up in flames. And while fans have also made a normal Scrap Bonnie, making you a nightmare as well is the fly trap icing on top of the shit cake. The concept of the nightmare animatronics is certainly freaky, but the fact that they aren't real kind of soothes me, you know? Sure, none of these animatronics are real, but in the context of their universe, the nightmare animatronics aren't real and can't actually hurt you. But with the implication of the scrapped nature of this version, it also seems to suggest that they are real, and that makes it freakier. But also the potential that the arm at the end of the security breach trailer, the first one that was never referenced again, by the way, Steel Wool, well, it wasn't referenced in the trailers again, it was just the one arm, and then we find out that it's Afton. It kind of looks like Nightmare Freddy, and that only adds to the idea that these animatronics could potentially be real at some point soon. But I know that's not actually a thing, and if the nightmare animatronics for some reason end up coming into our world, I'm done with FNAF. Honestly. At least it's more likely to be Glamrock Bonnie's arm, but still. And at 7, Am I Real? Am I Real, also known as Cake Bear, is presumably the primary and most recurring antagonist in Dormitabis. Am I Real has 2 different forms. His first form is Cake Bear. Cake Bear's design originated from the Save Him minigame in FNAF 2, where he delivered cake to children while a child is killed outside. He is also the predecessor to both Fredbear and Freddy Fazbear. Cake Bear is a brown bear animatronic that also acts as a spring-locked suit that appears in most of the main nights. Although they look slightly similar, the only similarities that he really has to Freddy Fazbear is that they both possess a top hat. They're also brown, have blue eyes, and are a bear. That's it. Am I Real's second form is a form that resembles Springtrap. This form has a green color much like Springtrap and contains human remains. His right eye socket has gotten bigger on the side and a big hole can be seen on the right side of his head. His top hat has received some withering on it as well. His lower jaw is slanted and worn down, no longer circular like Cake Bear's, and he has a sizable hole in the right side of his torso as well, revealing organs. Yep, that's right, that's the kind of game this is. Rips and tears cover his arms, revealing more and more human remains, and he appears to be missing at least one finger on his right hand for whatever reason, and is absolutely just terrifying to look at. And of course, 4 out of 10 of these are going to be from Dormitabis, okay? Did you watch the whole Dormitabis animatronics lists from a while ago? Those are nuts, okay? And at 6, Fred Trap. To be honest, I searched this up just for the hell of it, and there are actually Fredbear versions of Springtrap, and honestly, I don't know why I didn't think that there would be. Fred Trap is exactly what you'd expect. Springtrap's look on a yellow Freddy animatronic. The designs are actually really well made, and honestly are scarier than normal Springtrap to me. For some reason, I guess I just think bears are scarier than bunnies. I think that Scott made William use the Spring Bonnie suit because of how scared Scott was of Bonnie, but like, that's just idle speculation. It's not actually true, so it's just personal headcanon, you know? There are also even more rundown versions and even scrap versions of Fred Trap, which are already haunting when you don't think about the fact that it would still be William inside the suit being kept alive by the spirit of his dead son. Fred Trap is definitely one of the more strangely unique versions of any animatronic I've seen on this list, but like, still, it's pretty damn impressive. You gotta admit, this is pretty cool. Halfway through, in at number 5, Chibi Sundrop. Chibi Sundrop is even worse than the human versions, somehow. Mostly because I feel like it's too close to a form of gacha life character, and that just makes me cringe. It's scary, not like in an appearance kind of thing, but just because this is what would be in my nightmares. Like, don't get me wrong, okay? I would have to be on a lot of meds and would have to have an absolute metric ton of sugar to have this nightmare, but it's still possible. I doubt other people would consider this scary, which is why I'm putting it at number 5, kind of like halfway through, but I don't know why, okay? The whole chibi thing sets me on edge. It's just creepy. Like, why do you want these things to have eyes literally half the size of their head and so incorrectly proportioned? I don't like chibi designs, I really don't, and I can't tell you why. Okay, you just need to take my word for it. And at 4, Moon Man. Moon Man by ArtMama113 on DeviantArt is pretty damn haunting, and in a design way, not it's a bad way. Like, the artwork itself is great, and definitely better than anything I could do, but the creep factor starts with the fact that the eyes are glowing red, and one of them even appears to be smoking. No idea how this could happen, but hey, it's a thing. And the clothing design is also creepier than the normal Moondrop, just being like a whole galaxy. It's like Shane Dawson got a hold of the clothes when he was doing his like whole galaxying phase, and I think that the person doing it is already speaking to how creepy this is. With like the actual skin texture also being visible, and it looks like a moon, not an animatronic. Or some like very, very old and crusty cheese that really needs to be thrown out. Or as I would say, banished, being the Cheese King. But I think that the icing on top of the creep cake here isn't the smile that gives me a million different war flashbacks, or the shoes that make me feel like Cicero is on my tail, or even the tips of the fingers that for some reason are a deep, deep blue. Instead, it's the fact that this version of the Moondrop animatronic is saying, "Come closer, child, I'll make your death a painless one," which I very much doubt that you will, you sadistic. This guy looks like he enjoys torturing and then gets off on it. And like, why are you wearing a crop top? Great art though. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Statement Saturn Moondrop. The reason I thought the inspiration behind the Saturn Sundrop was the Dream SMP was because the Moondrop version was called Nightmare in brackets, whereas the Sundrop version was called Dream. Now that could just be a reference to how these characters would originate from dreams or nightmares, but I don't know, I just drew the parallel. Anyway, this version of Moondrop also just looks like a combination of the moon and Slender Man. Like, this man has 4 black tentacles that are coming out of his back, black, and honestly, he just looks fed up with everyone. He's slightly humanoid, which like I've said before is terrifying, and he also seems to have emo hair that's the same pitch black as the rest of his body. And he looks like the wizard that's been trying to get me to buy his magic. Wait, that guy probably isn't an actual wizard. But ultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Sundrop. And considering how this is a Nightmare animatronic, I'm pretty sure you understand why that one was only number 3. Picture Nightmare Yawn and then just make it the Sundrop animatronic and you have what Nightmare Sundrop is in essence. Which makes him creepy as hell, because we all know how I feel about nightmare versions of puppets, okay? Normal puppets, not creepy, that's fine. But the nightmare versions that are meant to be creepy are definitely going to mess with me. And this guy is messing with gold, okay? Gold is my color, and we all know that. This creepy dude also doesn't need those weird buttons, okay? Like, what's the deal with those? Why are they so creepy? I don't know why buttons of all things are creeping me out. Like, it could be the torn body, or the ruffles around the neck or waist, or the fact that he has bells on his wrists, but no, it's the buttons. Why am I the way that I am? And don't even get me started on his bony little chicken legs. Those are even worse than mine. Are you serious? And that's saying a lot, bro. Plus, the shoes are just weird and creepy. Excellent job though, Living Corpse 7 on DeviantArt. Excellent job. And finally, in at number 1, Nightmare Moondrop. Yes, the Moondrop version is going to finish us off this list, because have you seen it? Man's is like the Nightmare Sundrop on roids, and then every other single illicit substance imaginable that would get us demonetized but also ruins your appearance. Like, see, this is why you should only have pharmaceutical drugs, and only when you need them, because what the Not only does he have the same creepy leg and body and arms as the Sundrop version, but somehow this man's shoes got bigger. I don't know, how? How? You're supposed to be the same thing with a different color scheme. How did your shoes get bigger? And suspenders? Really? That is a horrific fashion choice, and trust me, I used to wear suspenders, so I'd know. Not to mention the whole implication that this guy's watching me when I sleep, and his first words in game are naughty naughty boy, and then everything else he says would get me put on multiple watch lists if I said them out loud. And those claws? Like, the Sun version has them, of course, but like, they just look more menacing on this guy. Holy sweet niblets, Miley Ray Stewart. And it's in Glamrock Foxy. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, Glamrock Foxy would add a really unnecessary amount of just sheer annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and I say this every time. He even has a name that reflects the whole Foxy thing, okay? Since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. I mean, like, I'm sure that's not intentional. Like, Roxy is an actual name that people have, but I figured that I'd mention it anyway because it's still like a combination of both words. And she plays the guitar, so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this is just the fact that, like, Foxy is like a scarier Bonnie. I know all the die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for my balls or something in the comments, but like, hey, look, I get that Scott had nightmares about him, okay? But honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Bonnie isn't actually scary. Yet the Glamrock versions that I see for Foxy fit in well. And considering the Pyrite Easter egg that seemingly introduces another Foxy, I talk about that in the top 10 tiny details you missed in the FNAF Security Breach trailers video, we might very well get a special version of this OG animatronic. Or we might already have one running around and we just haven't seen him in the trailer. And at 9, Spider Balora. Anyone who knows me knows I hate spiders. Big, small, poisonous, venomous, non-aggressive, any form of spider deserves to die, and if it's near me, hopefully it will. And while the Havoc puppet is messed up, if you know me, if you've watched any other fan videos, you'll know the Havoc puppet. The spider version of Balora is literally called Spider Balora, and I hate it with all my guts. While a couple of Nightmare Baloras have spider legs, this takes it to the next level. Her original form of crawling like a spider was already bad enough in my eyes, but now I have to deal with literally 3 eyes, 8 legs, a thorax, and 6 arms. What the hell? Man, why on God's green earth would you create this unholy monstrosity of a creature? Like, this is the kind of thing even Satan wouldn't approve of. When you die and you have to walk down the stairs to hell, Satan's gonna hide behind the gate and tell you to just keep walking. This is true horror, and I don't care what you think. You don't think it's scary? Good for you, but I'm not sleeping tonight. And with the introduction of the Music Man spider animatronic thing, whatever that unholy creation is, more spider animatronics, unfortunately, are now par for the course. and I don't want to deal with it. And it ain't Shadow Fredbear. Shadow Fredbear is almost perfectly intact, only burnt black in color, and he has a few rips on his body and is missing his left hand. The area around his mouth appears torn slightly as well, revealing a majority of his endoskeleton teeth, and his teeth and eyes glow, which makes it easier to see. Wonderful. Imagine if this animatronic had gums though. If he did, that would probably be the scariest thing on this list. But like the absolute monstrosity that would have been created just by giving this character gums is, I don't want to talk about it. My genius is sometimes terrifying. But nonetheless, this is still creepy without gums, okay? Especially because this dude is like, he looks like the FNAF AR jump scare that's just like the glowing eyes or nose and mouth that are like glowing red. It's like that, okay? It's weird. This dude is powerful, and he replaces most of the other animatronics on Night 5 of Final Nights 2. However, with the connections that Gregory and the Crying Child seem to share, perhaps Shadow Fredbear would be a way to enhance that connection further. Or it could be a hallucination or a manifestation created by Glitchtrap in an effort to scare us into submission so he can be sacrificed or whatever the hell he wants from us. And it's 7 fixed Springtrap or Scraptrap. Fixed Scraptrap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design, and then you crap your pants. The eyes for many of these versions is what makes it unsettling. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kinda tell that there's someone in the suit, is off-putting. And someone who might not even really be doing well and is likely dead yeah. The contrast of the clean suit with the manic eyes of it, there's something very unhinged about this version. I'm getting the vibes for that, really. And including this in the game could serve as William's new body, because I'm pretty sure he will unfortunately be coming back despite my constant pleas to kill him off permanently, because for some reason everyone thinks we'll be able to redeem Vanny, which means that we'll need a villain, but I don't think so. I don't think there's any saving this bitch. And at 6, Twisted Funtime Freddy. While there are a plethora of twisted animatronics, both from the mind of Scott Cawthon and others, none are quite as terrifying as Twisted Funtime Freddy. Twisted Funtime Freddy combines the nightmare design of previous animatronics with basically everything else that you would find terrifying in an animatronic. Like, I don't know why the teeth have to be angled slightly outward, and like, I don't know what it is about this animatronic that makes it so much more terrifying than everything else, but it worked. It doesn't matter. Even if it's not pointed outward, I think the mixture of the visuals plus the thought of them also being able to move their face plates from being underground and still twisted but moving, it just, everything culminates in my brain and just causes panic. Like, it's like a sensory overload, but with FNAF, and honestly, that's what FNAF does to me nowadays. These are freaking nuts, and I don't know what it is about it. It's in essence a nightmare animatronic, but seems so much worse. Plus, it's a way to work in the different twisted animatronics into the game lore, including the canon ones and additional fan ones, maybe. Halfway through into number 5, Slasher Fredbear. Slasher Fredbear by DeviantArt user PlayStation Jedi is an unholy abomination that must be stopped. I've talked about the Slasher animatronics before, particularly in the Bonnie animatronic versions list. However, Slasher Fredbear is so much worse. He may not have a shotgun axe guitar, but oh my god. Let me read the description of this animatronic in the words of PlayStation Jedi himself, so you can see what the creator thinks about him. Quote, "The largest and strongest of all the Slasher animatronics, Slasher Fredbear is an unstoppable force with enhanced strength and durability. Fredbear is capable of smashing through walls, withstanding lots of punishment, and grabbing heavy objects and throwing them across the room. While Fredbear uses his great strength to pick up and rip people in half, if he needs a quick kill, he can extend a blade mounted to his wrist and cut through people like butter. Or, if he needs a ranged attack, he can use his 2 wrist-mounted LMG guns. Fredbear could switch between these weapons on the fly, either using 2 LMGs or 2 blades or 1 on each wrist." What the hell, man? LMG standing for light machine gun. Kelly, by the way. Jesus ever-loving Christ. This will actually make me cry myself to sleep. Not to mention the spikes covering his body or the incredible amount of blood soaking him. And at 4, Golden Call. As a human when alive, Golden Call's name was Kyle. However, now he is a Springlock victim stuck inside a Golden Freddy Springlock suit. Golden Call has a typical rundown Springlock suit vibe, similar to Springtrap. However, this time it's even more gruesome. His left ear is bent, he has bugs coming out of basically every hole in his body, human eyes are hanging out of the animatronic's eye sockets, he is missing exosuit on his right foot, and the character is holding a flesh-colored, at least flesh-colored, it might even be flesh made phone in his right hand that stays stuck to his head via more flesh and blood strands connecting to the side of his head. Yeah. Dude, this is horrifying. This is a monstrosity. And looking at his age on the wiki, Kyle was only 5 years old when he got spring locked, which is absolutely nuts and just like flat out horrible. It's so unfortunate. He was supposed to be the next best Fortnite player. He killed Ninja and Tfue. That's a joke for you long-term subs right there. Although, if you stuck around after those videos, I'd be surprised. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Reaper Spring Bonnie. Reaper Spring Bonnie is absolutely terrifying, okay? This Reaper variant appears in Final Nights 3 and 4s, and is an absolute monstrosity, but is definitely more terrifying in Final Nights 4. He is 100% the scariest animatronic in these games. In essence, Reaper Spring Bonnie is a nightmare spring trap. He has sharp teeth and a very damaged and withered body. His suit is dark yellow in color, he sports a big purple bow tie on his upper chest, and like other Reaper animatronics, Reaper Spring Bonnie has one pair of hollow, dark, cold eyes. In Final Nights 4, however, his appearance is more disfigured and gruesome, with sharper claws, sharper teeth, a different jaw, growths on his shoulder pads resembling fungi, and a gooier appearance overall, I should say. He is also missing half of his right ear, similar to Springtrap from FNAF 3, and his suit is more greenish in color, also like Springtrap. But oh my god, okay, this thing is way more terrifying than Springtrap. This dude is 100% like just nightmare fuel. But ultimately, in at number 2, Reaper Puppet. If you didn't know, the Reaper Puppet was the first fan animatronic ever featured on this channel in the top 10 scary FNAF animatronics list around like a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. The first FNAF video by me on this channel, by the way, was from January 29th, 2020. Can you believe that? It's actually been over 2 years. And the video I'm talking about came out about a month later, on February 24th, 2020. So yeah, it's been over 2 years. So I have a long history with this character. The Reaper Puppet, along with Shadow Bonnie and the brother from Final Nights 1, are the only animatronics in the entire Final Night series to start off a night outside. Reaper Puppet also appears to be a counterpart to the original series Puppet, though it is only the Reaper Puppet's head that is similar to the core series. The rest of its body is a dark shade of black. It has long stretching arms and sharp fingers at the hands, like the Grim Reaper, and Reaper Puppet has multiple tentacle-like legs, which kinda gives me PTSD because of the blob. Reaper Puppet can easily be mistaken for a tree, as its legs look like roots and its shoulders look like branches, but the thing is so creepy that I included it on a list that shouldn't have had fan animatronics on it, okay? But I was incredibly creeped out and I felt compelled to make it a thing, mostly because I wanted to use it for the thumbnail, okay? Like how kids in Fazbear Frights are drawn to the restaurants, I'm drawn to the Reaper Puppet. And finally, in at number 1, Actual Nightmares. From a series of Reddit posts from a now deleted user called FNAF 4, but it's actually something you would see in a nightmare, these horrific half-wits are exactly what I would genuinely expect to see in a nightmare. Like, why would you do that to poor mommy Chica? This was the thumbnail image I used for the iconic Scary FNAF Creepypastas video on Top 10 Gaming Elite, the 8th video released on that channel at this point, and I think it's still the most popular video on that channel. But it really makes me wonder why I didn't use that in a video at any point before this. Like, this is the first time I'm actually talking about these characters, which is kind of absolutely crazy. And I used Freddy for the scariest fan animatronics you will ever see video, which only made me want to talk about it more. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've used all 3 in thumbnails before. I used Bonnie for like a Bonnie Theories video as well, like damn. For some reason, the author didn't want to or didn't end up making a Nightmare Fredbear or Foxy in these styles, so I guess that this was probably enough for them. And honestly, I think it was enough for the internet because I'm like, damn, okay, these things are hella creepy. Even worse than the Reaper or Havoc Puppet. That's right, I said it. Havoc Puppet wasn't even on this list, but still. In at 10, Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Imagine Withered Bonnie, but on illicit substances that I can't mention on YouTube, and you have Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Withered Bonnie is already scary enough with the beating red eyes and the rundown visuals. Even if it's just a Nightmare Bonnie with Withered Bonnie's style face, it would already be terrifying, and we all know how Scott feels about normal Bonnie. And in the Nightmare version, he's already crapping himself. And then, add a Withered version, and then this is the reason he retired. There, I said it, okay? Not because of any controversy or for him being tired of making games or wanting to make other games for his kids, but because of Nightmare Withered Bonnie. It's an ungodly creation that must be stopped. And at 9, Funtime Bonnie. The Funtime animatronics were introduced in Sister Location, the 5th game in the series. However, Bonnie was actively missing from that lineup. aside from a couple of small hand puppet versions that are unsettling on their own, this left a rabbit-shaped hole in our hearts. So Funtime Bonnie was created. Well, was created by the fans. We don't think that there is a Funtime Bonnie that exists in the lore, like how Chica was just rented out. But if you've watched other lists about fan versions, you'll know that the Funtimes always creep me out. The ability for them to like move their faces is wrong, and it's really the selling point to me for why they're scary, aside from the lore. In at 8, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie. Yet another set of animatronics without any Bonnie representation. The security breach Glamrock animatronics, from what we've seen, I mean, they might add in DLC, but we don't have originally a Glamrock Bonnie. He really only appears as the mascot of bowling. However, fans have yet again made Glamrock versions of Bonnie, but those weren't really scary. So in classic FNAF fashion, if you want something to be scary, you just throw the word nightmare in front of the name, and boom, you have an ungodly abomination that will eat your soul and devour your balls. And I mean like Faz balls, like from the ball pit, okay? I don't know, go with it, okay? Nevertheless, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie looks exactly how you'd expect a Nightmare version of Glamrock Bonnie to look, with shoulder pads. That's the scariest part about it. In at 7, FNAF Plus Bonnie. FNAF Plus is an in-development fan game being funded by the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, and as I described in the video about the Fanverse timeline, this is probably the deviation point from the main timeline, with other events largely remaining the same if not identical. However, this version of not only Bonnie but the other two as well are just plain creepy, man. Like if Funko Pops could actually kill you and wanted to, this is what it would happen. Not sponsored, but like Funko, we can talk, okay? I have too many. The structure of the head though is honestly best described as a Funko Pop vinyl figure, with a wide jaw that would slay any mother who walked in with their kids for their birthday party, but it's so creepy and off-putting, okay? They certainly nailed the creepier and darker theme that they seem to be going for with these remakes, because these set me on edge really badly, okay? They put me on edge so bad, I'm Lady Gaga. I'm on the edge of terror, not glory. But trust me, looking at these horrifying versions is not glorious in the slightest. And at 6, Havoc Bonnie. Here we go, the good old classic Dormitabis. The default game for any scary animatronics list. Known as probably the most disturbing FNAF fan game, Dormitabis takes place before FNAF 4 and FNAF 5 even came out. So before the official act and name reveal as well as the Nightmare animatronics. But this is honestly worse than the Nightmare animatronics, in my humble opinion. The thing is, Havoc Bonnie wasn't even in the original Dormitabis. Yeah, this is a fan creation based on a fan game, making it one of the most meta versions of Bonnie on this list. Although there is another one that's even more meta, but I'll get to that later. And the fact that the Dormitabis based version of Bonnie is only number 6 should speak volumes. And no, it's not at number 6 only because it wasn't in the original game, okay? The original game is really messed up, so it's kind of a good thing that it wasn't there. I suggest looking it up if you're over the age of 16 at least. Like, kids should not be looking at that kind of thing, okay? It's messed up, honestly. Like, not even a joke. That it's halfway through in at number 5, Glamrock Puppet. Again, every time I make a list about discussing creepy animatronics, a freaking puppet always makes it on. That's mostly because the puppet is a freaky character to begin with, and I feel like the phone guy whenever I call the puppet creepy, but it is creepy. And the Glamrock Puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Furries Rage game like I figured it would be, but instead it's just like a separate design that no matter what just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me how the pepperoni gets put on the pizza. And no, I don't mean literally. Yes, that was an allusion to something else. And not only does it come with its own creepy ass concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Withered Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. This is like the 4th weirdest and scariest puppet, and there's nothing really scary about it. It feels wrong to me, and the whole pepperoni thing. And at 4, Glamrock Plush. Okay, so technically these are official and licensed plushies, so they're not really fan-made, but there are other versions on Etsy that are actually fan-made, so there are some fan-made versions. And honestly, those are the ones that you should be getting, because look at these f***ing things. Why are the Glamrock security breach plushies so funky looking? They look horrible. Like, this was actually so much of an issue that many people had with these plushies that it caused a bit of an uproar within the community when they were first revealed. Not only that, but because, you know, Funko has a history of just leaking everything for some reason, and they don't look like the other plushies that they've released before. Like, if you're gonna make real plushies, at least make them look the same as they did in the VR games, so that we can like actually really see them and hold them, because we've already seen them before. It's not that hard, guys, really. These Security Breach Glamrock plushes are some of the worst proportioned and most horrifying plushies I've seen. And I saw the one that Scott Lang gave to his daughter in Ant-Man, and the bloodthirsty minion my father gave to my sister. These are still the most horrific ones that I've seen, though, okay? If I had these, I would be scared for my life. Although, mentioning that, they are on my Amazon wish list, so if you guys want to... I'm just kidding, I don't have an Amazon wish list, I'm not a girl. Getting close to the end, into number 3, Blacklight Glamrocks. Some of the Blacklight versions of Glamrock animatronics are absolutely horrifying. While I'm not sure if the plushie versions are official products, the fan blender versions for the characters are freaking nuts. Chica with blue skin is not only off-putting, but actually haunting. Same with a yellow Roxy. These are like if the Glamrock animatronics were Pokemon, and then like these were the shiny versions of them. So far, the only Blacklight animatronics that we know of are the ones from Help Wanted that only really appeared in the animatronic maintenance minigames in Blacklight mode, but that were never used again and that we don't really get to see. It's terrifying to think about the lore implications as well. Like if this place turns off the light at night, but then turns on like a black light or something, like how do they change color? How are they not just neon whatever their color is? Because these peeps are colorful as hell. So why not just glow your own damn colors? See, my head is starting to hurt even just thinking about these things. Just please, keep them away from me. And ultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Glamrocks. Nightmare animatronics are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronics. And that's why there are so many fan-made versions, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can really just head anywhere, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their original pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between the two versions. They seem to be just the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, because maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but now she's not, but like even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock version is scarier than their normal Nightmare version. Stay away from these, don't look them up, although you've already seen them because it's in the edit. So I'm sorry. And finally, in at number 1, scrap Glamrock animatronics. With Security Breach releasing in less than a month, we had to include a group of animatronics as scrapped versions on this list. And honestly, it's actually a good idea, considering how Chica in that promotional image seems pretty scrapped already. They really wouldn't have to do much to make that work out. However, the versions that I've actually seen are scarily horrific in a way that makes me concerned if they'll be in the real game. I don't think these would be in the game, but based on my old theory that I had about how these characters are kind of acting like zombies and like eating animatronic, or I guess not animatronic, but like other robotic parts, this look just makes me feel too right. Especially when we see in the trailer Chica getting progressively more destroyed. I feel like this might actually end up being a thing. These animatronics being made into scrap animatronics are honestly some of the freakiest custom scrap versions that I've seen. This is some freaky scrap. I tried to stay away from anything like that was like too pristine, I guess. Because like what I used to do in previous alternate fan version videos was just look up adjectives. Like if it was like scary nightmare and like fan versions, I would just look up like withered nightmare, something else nightmare. I would just add that. I would just add adjectives to nightmare's name. So I tried to avoid that this time, but scrap and nightmare are always a classic way to go, okay? If there's gonna be a Halloween update for this game though, Scott, or I guess Steel Wool at this point, you need to add these. That would be fun. In at 10, Moon Drip. I never needed a FNAF animatronic to dress like a hype beast. And I don't know what it is about these damn Security Breach animatronics, but everything about this game is seemingly getting memed, okay? The Moon Drip animatronic, as they're being called online, are basically just hype beasts with the Moondrop face photoshopped over top, which is certainly one of the most basic fan versions, but it's still scary because I don't need this. I never needed to see a FNAF animatronic wearing Supreme merch. Like, why on earth? Why would someone choose to do this? Like, you willingly created this. I get get the whole like Gregory sus meme because let's face it, he vented and nobody can deny it. We were literally on cams when he did it. Not even a joke. We were literally in a camera room. And I can get the whole like Vanny or Vanessa simping. Trust me, I can get that. But Moon Drip? That's taking it too far. We already have Gregory being a little demonic Fazbear hype beast with all of his Faz merch, okay? We don't need animatronics to be goated with the sauce, alright? And at 9, Human Sundrop. Any human version of an animatronic is creepy, okay? Especially human versions of non-human animatronics. Like human Balora and Baby, that's fine. They were humanoid to begin with. But humanoid Freddy and Chica, God no. This time though, Sundrop is in that kind of gray area. Like it's kind of humanoid, but it's not based on a human. It's like if the sun was a person, and I've seen that before. Turning Sundrop into a human only enhances this idea further as well, since this guy straight up looks like Heat Miser from The Year Without a Santa Claus. This guy is about to fight to melt the North Pole and sing some damn catchy tunes, okay, even if he doesn't in Fahrenheit. Only 3 countries in the world still use Fahrenheit. Did you know that? 3. Out of 197 countries, only 3 of them use the imperial system. The US is one of them. You're one of 3 countries. Come on, step up your game. Anyway, the human Sundrop or Sundrop, whatever you want to call it, creeps me the hell out and makes me kind of cower in fear, okay? He's the kind of clown that asks you if you want to play games after your parents go to sleep and then is killed by Sam and Dean Winchester because he's secretly a monster. And at 8, Internet Rule Moondrop. The rules of the internet are sometimes a glorious thing, okay? They can help you know what to avoid or what to search if you're into that kind of thing and your legal viewing age. However, when I just look up an animatronic and start getting some of the most famous internet rule of all time, that's an issue. This thing is literally just a personification of the moon. Why are you people so into that? Like there's even Springtrap art of this nature. And he's like a skinned human in a robot suit. How is it that people are simping over Springtrap and Moondrop, yet I'm still here single and unloved? I don't get it, honestly. Moving on, personifying the moon is one thing, but then giving it genitals and then causing it to do obscene things, just stop. This would have been higher on the list, like it would have been number 1, because this is the scariest thing that I've ever seen, but I wanted to tell people to cut it out sooner rather than later, because the retention always drops off near number 1 for some reason, even though it's the one that everyone wants to see. But hopefully, by doing this, I can cut it off at its legs. Stop it. Get some help. And at 7, Statement Saturn Sundrop. Knitter.net user Statement Saturn Sundrop version posted on December 28, 2021 is certainly a beautiful bit of artwork. However, I believe the inspiration for this was the character of like Dream XD from the Dream SMP, or at least it seems that way, which kind of makes this scary. This version is very godlike in a sense, okay? It has like a floating sideways halo of sun rays and a really flowy outfit, but despite the character smiling, it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. And ever since my sister became scarily obsessed with the Dream SMP, anything of the sort triggers me. This dude looks like someone who'd watch people from outside the pizza joint and like creep up to the window and peek in. And I mean like really peek in, like only coming up enough so that he could see what's inside while trying to keep his body hidden and he's only showing his eyes. And if he couldn't get a good enough angle while he's on the ground, he'd crawl up the wall and then like look in from the top of the window. And if anyone calls him out for it, okay, he'd kill them, he'd off them in like a second, and then he would continue. That's what I think this dude's personality is like, okay? He doesn't interact, but he does like to watch from within the closet. And at 6, Human Moondrop. The Human Moondrop is creepy for the same reasons as Human Sundrop. However, the biggest problem with the human version of Moondrop is that he's always creepier, okay? He's the emo brother that everyone pretends doesn't live at home. It's some of the absolute scariest damn human animatronic hybrid I think I've ever seen. And I've seen a human version of a baby Balora hybrid combination animatronic. And that was some nightmare fuel, but this is even worse. Like no matter who's drawing it, any version of a Moondrop character is always a combination of like Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians and ironically enough Snow Miser from The Year Without a Santa Claus. Possibly the Snow Miser thing is clicking because of the juxtaposition version with the sun version of the character, but still. I think that this guy is, instead of like watching from outside, he's the guy who watches from the inside, sneaking in the shadows, like a creepy rogue stealth archer, but he's not shooting arrows, if you know what I mean. He's no. Halfway through, in at number 5, FNAF AR. FNAF AR Special Delivery is certainly an interesting game, but the animatronics present in that game are even more interesting. With skins like Clown Springtrap and Arctic Balora, it's always cool to see new takes on our favorite animatronics. Get it? Because she's Arctic. However, the cooler thing would be to see these animatronics in Security Breach. I mean, we've already seen some of them in the Furry's Rage video game, which saw us fighting waves of enemies throughout the Pizzaplex, so why not just put them in the main game? Especially some of the fan-made versions from that game, because those are way cooler than anything in the actual game itself, okay? It could help explain why the animatronics that should be dealt with are back, especially since it's an argument as to why any of these animatronics should actually be added, because it would mess with the lore of what we already know. See yesterday's list for me using that reason multiple times to explain why even some of these animatronics on this list shouldn't be added to the game. But hey, I'm all about contradicting myself, okay? It gets people talking in the comments. Speaking of which, who do you want to see in Security Breach who isn't like actually like confirmed? Like, don't say, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing no, don't do that. Who do you want to see in Security Breach who isn't confirmed yet? Let me know that you actually made it this far into the video by answering that question in the comments. In at 4, Ignited Freddy. This game could also serve as a link between game worlds if that's the plan. A breach in the security of the dimensional barrier, if you will. Scott would stretch a title like that, let's be honest. And Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists of the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection released as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. In this game, you play as Scott Coffin, whose creations have escaped from the game and are coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, he's exposed his endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth, his left ear is also missing. Ignited Freddy, he wears a top hat though. We love a classy gentleman, like his original counterpart. Both of his hands are also missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm. He has no real eyes, only black holes with white pupils, but adding this to the game could serve as a way to connect the fanverse to the main universe and get fans excited for the Fanverse Initiative games in an interesting way. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare Glamrocks. Nightmare versions are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic, and you know what? I get it. That's why there are so many fan-made versions of him, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can only do so much with those. You can head anywhere else from your own imagination, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between these two versions. The normal Glamrocks and the Nightmare Glamrocks, jeez. There just seems to be the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically, even more so than like twisted Funtime Freddy. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, but maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but like now, even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock is, I still want it in the game. But with the amount of jackassery that comes from these FNAF games, I wouldn't doubt it if Scott just threw these in to make a more solid connection between Gregory and Crying Child. Either because it's canon or because he wants to mess with us. Because that's something he would do, especially when he's leaving and the person next to him, or the person after him, has to clean up his mess. And ultimately, in at number 2, Glamrock Puppet. Every time I make a list discussing creepy animatronics, every single time, without fail, a freaking puppet makes it on the list. That's mostly because the puppets are freaking terrifying, man. And I feel like the phone guy whenever I talk about it, but like, the puppet is creepy. And the Glamrock puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Fury's Rage game like I figured. Yes, I actually called it by its proper name this time. But instead, it's just a separate design. Just no matter what, it just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me where it puts the salami. I don't mean literally, but like, you get what I mean. And not only does it come with its own creepy concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Withered Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. Yet this design, it also still fits into Security Breach, and considering how we got a version in Fury's Rage, maybe we should get a version in the full game. Hopefully it doesn't float though. And And finally, in at number 1, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So as far as I can tell, the only mention of Bonnie will be in the bowling alley that we probably aren't really gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of the animatronics, these designs aren't really scary, well, aside from the Minecraft model. What's with people and making Minecraft animations for all these FNAF characters? The game hasn't even come out yet. Freaking Glamrock Puppet, freaking Glamrock Bonnie, just chill out. Either way, these versions, aside from one from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing, but the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough to me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that. But these designs are incredible, so maybe I could deal with it if it's just like one of these versions that was included in the game. Just make sure that it's like one of the first few you see, okay, Scott? Don't scroll down too much. Trust me, it's not worth it. The rules of the internet are there to protect you.